As the games industry grows exponentially larger and more lucrative, the big publishers and developers out there have injected massive funds into their projects to deliver some truly outstanding experiences. And there is, of course, no denying the fact that with AAA development and the financial backing and pool of resources and manpower that comes with it, developers can make some amazing games. But as more than a few games have proven over the years, you don't need massive budgets to do that. What you need, above all else, is good ideas and smart execution. And as long as you have that, you don't need blockbuster budgets. Here, we're going to talk about a few games that took players by storm, even with their limited production scopes. Given the vast pool of options that was available to us for our picks, there will obviously be many games that we won't be talking about here, so if any omissions stand out to you, just fire off in the comments section. Hollow Knight. Let's start with what is probably the most obvious pick for a feature such as this one. Common wisdom would dictate that making what is arguably the greatest game of all time wouldn't be possible with a team numbering in the single digits, but Hollow Knight defies that common wisdom. The game exudes polish and quality from top to bottom, from its challenging combat and devilishly challenging boss fights, to its massive, intricately designed world and the gorgeous art style that world exhibits across a variety of locations. Hollow Knight is one of the best games ever made, and the fact that it was made by a tiny team on a tiny crowd-funded budget makes its accomplishments stand out that much more. Disco Elysium. In a genre dominated by many others, it's not easy for a new game to come along and instantly earn a place in that upper echelon. That Disco Elysium, a game developed by a small and passionate indie team, did that in such convincing fashion will never cease to amaze us. This fantastic RPG transports players to a unique, engrossing world populated by bizarre and memorable characters, and tells a story that is constantly dotted by complex choices, role-playing mechanics, startling revelations, and expert world-building. No amount of praise will ever be enough for Disco Elysium, which is saying something because it gets a lot of praise. Celeste. A quarter of a dozen people coming together to make what has gone down as one of the best platformers of its generation isn't something that happens every day. Celeste is a special game for so many reasons. Whether you want to look at its perfectly balanced challenge, its excellent level design, its tight movement and crisp platforming, or its surprisingly emotional and excellently told story, this is a game that shines like a blinding beacon in a genre that so often gets ignored by the AAA space. Celeste is a game that is as full of heart as it is quality, and that's very, very rare to see. The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. The Vanishing of Ethan Carter is a perfect example of what happens when a small team of impassioned creators come together with a singular vision and then execute on that vision in all the best ways. It's not a perfect game, no, but it delivers an experience that sets itself apart from anything else out there in more ways than one. Its engrossing story, the restrained manner in which it tells it, and the horror vibes, the gorgeous world, the simple yet enjoyable puzzles, all of it coming together in something truly special. This is the textbook definition of a game that's greater than the sum of its parts. Journey. Journey will forever be remembered as the game that proved that even the simplest, most restrained gaming experiences can leave a lasting impact on players. Just as well, if not better, than a 50-hour epic backed by a AAA budget. Traversing the gorgeous world of this indie classic is an experience unlike any other, with every second of the game being a perfect blend of mesmerizing traversal, outstanding music, gorgeous art design, and powerful, wordless storytelling. The Pathless. The Pathless kind of flew under the radar when it launched in late 2020, buried under the headline-grabbing releases of the new consoles and all the blockbuster games they launched with. Those who did play the game though, and those who have gone back to it since its launch, will tell you that it deserved way more attention. Like Journey, The Pathless uses its beautiful art style, wordless storytelling, and excellent music, slick traversal, and engaging exploration to craft an unforgettable experience. Telltale's The Walking Dead. Telltale had been around for quite some time before they broke through into the mainstream, but it was only with their The Walking Dead adaptation in 2012 that they showed the world what they're capable of. It wasn't the best looking game, and mechanically it was quite simplistic, essentially offering a more fleshed out version of classic point and click adventures, or a less fleshed out version of what games like Heavy Rain had already done before. But it was because of its captivating story, its surprisingly effective illusion of choice and player agency, and its instantly endearing characters and their relationships that Telltale's The Walking Dead stood out. Telltale would go on to iterate on that formula with many more similar games going forward, many of which were direct sequels to The Walking Dead, but it's fair to say that they never touched those same heights after that. Stardew Valley. If you're looking for a game that you can lose dozens, if not hundreds of hours of your life to, look no further than Stardew Valley. It's the perfect relaxation game, to begin with at least. That's how it starts, as the game lays out all of its mechanics, from farming to fishing to befriending NPCs to exploring caves and mines, and as the hours progress it keeps on adding layer on top of layer on top of layer. Soon, it has its claws so deep into you that even if you tried, you couldn't get out. Stardew Valley is a black hole brimming with addictive and engaging systems and mechanics that will suck you in and never let you go. Rocket League. Indie multiplayer revelations come along pretty often these days, but Rocket League was, in many ways, the game that started the trend. Developer Psyonix took another crack at the bizarre football car combat formula it attempted in the lesser-known supersonic acrobatic rocket-powered battle cars back in 2008 and struck gold. Rocket League is a perfect example of a game combining two things that absolutely should not work together but somehow do, thanks to simple mechanical brilliance. Outer Wilds. You'll hear a lot of people telling you that Outer Wilds is one of the best games ever made, and though it might sound hyperbolic at first, you will only need to play the game yourself to realize that every bit of that praise is very well deserved. Time loop games are a dime a dozen these days, but none have ever managed to leverage that inherently fascinating concept as effectively as Outer Wilds does, because not only does it leverage that for some brilliantly ingenious gameplay mechanics and loops, it also leverages that concept to tell a fascinating and impactful story unlike any other. No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky started off on the wrong foot, to say the least, and failed to deliver on many of the promises that it made, either explicitly or implicitly, in the lead-up to its launch, but now it stands as a shining example of how a dedicated development team can turn an abject failure into a victory for the ages. Its literally limitless world is full of intrigue and wonder, beautiful vistas and alien sights and sounds, and each year it adds new loops and mechanics and systems that lend increasing depth to a game that's already got more than enough depth to keep players occupied for hundreds of hours. Firewatch. Firewatch isn't one of those games that looks so jaw-droppingly technically amazing that you wouldn't believe it was made by a far smaller number of people than the average Ubisoft or Rockstar game. It's definitely and perceptibly an indie game, but there are things about it that stand out and still surprise the hell out of any player who spends any decent amount of time with it. Chief among these is just how great it is at its storytelling. The writing and dialogue in the game are amazing, and the performances by the voice talent only emphasize and elevate that writing further. Firewatch is a masterclass in understated elegance and sophistication in storytelling, managing to effectively tell an affecting and moving story in a way that even many major AAA games can't manage. When people talk about how so much of the innovation and inventiveness in games is happening in the indie space rather than the AAA one, games like Firewatch are what they have in mind. Cuphead. We get very few 2D AAA games, but you have to imagine that if they were more common, a lot of them would look like Cuphead. The way the game recreates the hand-drawn animation and visual style of 1930s and 1940s cartoons is truly jaw-dropping, and Cuphead in motion is something breathtaking to behold. It's not really an exaggeration to say that it is without question one of the best-looking games ever made. And it achieves this with an attention to detail and aesthetic that few other games, 2D or otherwise, ever really manage. People who tell you that 2D games can never achieve the same visual heights as 3D ones are wrong. Cuphead stands as a testament to that. A Plague Tale: Innocence. Honestly, A Plague Tale: Innocence looks almost indistinguishable from a AAA experience. It looks gorgeous, runs very well, and best of all, plays very well. Its stealth, puzzle, and exploration mechanics never get too ambitious, but the game uses that simplicity to great effect. While on the storytelling side of things, the period setting, some unexpected fantasy elements, lovable characters, and the endearing relationships they form keep you hooked from the very first second, right up to the moment the credits roll. We can't wait to see what Asobo Studio does with the sequel. Inside. Indie developer Playdead had already taken audiences by storm with its debut title Limbo, but its follow-up, Inside, was better than anyone could have imagined. Sure, if you were to analyze its gameplay and mechanical strengths, you might feel like it's way too simplistic, on paper at least. But like many other games in this list, Inside uses that simplicity to great effect. It's an unsettling experience that tells a horrifying, captivating story without ever uttering a single word, constantly taking players from one nightmarish scenario to the next, before hitting you with an ending that will stay with you forever. That's all for now. If you enjoy what you saw, please hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, now is a great time to subscribe. We upload brand new videos every single day. After subscribing, don't forget to enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you next time, right here on Gaming Bolt.